You didn't?
Welcome to Speaking Prowess, the show that supercharges your communication and fuels unstoppable success. Sifu Rafael, visionary founder and world-renowned master instructor, elevates leaders into unforgettable communicators who command the room and inspire action. Alongside him is Scott Schilling, the authentic connector, a business growth expert with 40 years of experience, empowering audiences to rise higher, succeed faster, and thrive with purpose. Together, they bring you the strategies, insights, and inspiration to amplify your voice, expand your influence, and unlock your true potential. This is Speaking Prowess. Your journey to communication mastery starts now.
Happy Friday, Scott. How are you today?
Happy Friday. I'm fabulous. Looking forward to another great show with you, my friend.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I am super excited for today. So without further ado, let's bring out two exceptional guests. We have John and we have Coach T.O. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or should I say afternoon because it's now 12 something.
Yeah, it is afternoon.
That's right. That's right.
I'm excited for today because we're going to be talking about the power behind communication. That's one of the topics, right? And then also connection and clarity. But why don't we start with communication? Because to me, that's the heart of everything.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. We need to, as I hear, I'm talking about succinctly talking about communication. I can't get the words out. That's
because it's deep. It's deep. That's why.
It's deep. I was going so deep in my own mind there. But yeah, communication is the if you truly want to up-level your life, up-level your communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good, man. I was told by my wife this morning, you need to communicate better. And I'm like, wow, come on, babe. Like, she's like, no, honestly, you should understand something, before. I'm like, yes. So yeah, communication. It's something, gentlemen, that I admit I literally try to work on every single day. And it starts right here in my home. I have an 11-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old, two sons. And sometimes it's that communication barrier with simple stuff. Hey, pick your coat up, put your shoes away. Those things is very important. So trying to develop and be better at that, gentlemen.
Can I help you with that? Take all the bills you have and tell the kids, here, pay it. And
hey,
now we'll see how they
back.
learn that what you say matters, right? Living in a home to take care of it. And when it's something that you're supposed to do because you can, say to your kid, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a teenager today, and you handle today's chores that I do. I'll handle yours, which are easy, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, I agree 100%. I know that's the way I was raised. And, the old phrase, I'm sure we've all heard, Scott, John, money doesn't grow on trees. Spend it wisely, all those little things.
It does if you're a lumberjack.
I guess so. Yeah, kind of, maybe. Yes. That's a good one. I like that.
John, I know you've got something to add to all this.
John, can you hear us?
I couldn't hear anything that Scott has said. I can hear you two gentlemen, but I couldn't hear anything Scott has said.
Because you want Scott to say it again. I get you.
No. I can say something, Scott. Let me see if I can hear you. Please say something.
I just threw it over to you and said, John, I know you raised your hand. You've got some great things to communicate.
I don't know why.
You can't hear Scott. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's up to you and me, T.O, to delegate. You want to go out and come back, maybe, Scott?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, if he was to do that, he'd probably pick that recording back up.
Okay. So meanwhile, John,
Meanwhile,
I'm going to interpret for Scott. He wants you to say what you were going to say.
yeah, it's funny. One of the things I sometimes say to people is that communication can be thought of as an activity, talking. But I also sometimes say to people, communication it can be thought of as a state of being. Are you in communication with the other person? So that you can be sitting with someone, your wife or your good friend or whatever, in a room, and you are in communication, even though nothing is being said. You're on the same wavelength, in other words. And so that may be another way to look at it. But that's a tough one. And by the way, you said your kids are how old? 11 and 14?
11 and 16. Yes.
11 and 16. My kids are 43 and 39, and it's still a problem. So.
Yes, I have a 30-year-old as well. And, like you said, it could still be a problem. Yes.
But no longer your problem. So here's the thing.
I take
21
that
and
back.
a 24-year-old, and Scott's got like 30 of them. So go ahead,
Yes.
Scott.
Now I can't hear you, Sifu.
Maybe you got to go out and come back in, Scott.
Should I drop out?
No, yes.
So
I'll
I was going to say,
come back.
I've got a 38-year-old and a 36-year-old.
All right, drop me. How do I drop out? Just drop out and come back. All right, I'll drop out and come back.
I've got a 38 and a 36-year-old, and it's interesting to negotiate the changes in the landscape between the generations, for sure. So always interesting and exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Scott, you know my 24-year-old. What are your thoughts on him?
Oh, he's great. Obviously, he was parented extremely well, and no, Marco is awesome, and a lot. It has to do with the the impressions that you leave upon them about the importance of communication and really coming through and succinctly sharing messages. You've got to model, you've got to demonstrate. I mean, I'm as a professional speaker, I was sharing this on a show yesterday that I used to watch my dad stand in front of a mirror giving his presentation and looking himself in the eyes to practice his speeches. Novel concept. I became a professional speaker. How could that possibly have happened?
The influence.
That's exactly it. So, I mean, I think that's why we have a great opportunity, and communication is one of the things that was, in my opinion, lost during the pandemic because of the bombarding of we need to social distance, and we're social beings. And the minute that came out, I actually created a video, said, I refuse the social distance. I will physical distance if that's for safety, but I'm going to up my social game. I'm going to talk to more people because, in fact, we are social beings. We need that connection.
Absolutely. So, John, can you hear us now?
I can hear everybody now.
I feel like this is a Verizon call. Hello, can you hear me now?
And that takes you back to when that campaign was going.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to agree and disagree with you because I think that a lot of people had to step up to communication because now all of a sudden they're speaking to their peers when they normally didn't when they were working together, right? They needed to come across with the ideas. In the past, they can just come off and drop off a piece of paper and walk away and say, just read the memo. And now it became a little bit different. They actually had to discuss the memo. So I think it did help some people when they actually had to verbally speak, but communication is so much deeper when you're in person. There is absolutely no doubt. And I think that this is the beauty of and the power behind communication. It's how do we do it? I love what John was talking before, that you can be in a room with somebody and not say a word, but you're connected because you've had conversations prior. You understand one another, right?
Right.
So many times, T.O, I was driving, Coach T.O, I was driving this weekend, right? And you were in the car with us. Did we all talk at the same time? No, I mean there was collaboration. I was driving 8 people back from New York City, right? And you were one of them. And how was the conversations in that car?
Conversations are actually great, going and coming, because going, you had, Brother Jose and Brandon Godoris having a conversation in the back. They were being respectful of everyone else in the car and kind of just, in their little small pocket. You were driving, I'm in the passenger seat. You're showing me Left Rack City, and we're having our discussion. And all the way in the back of the van was the same thing. And I could say that based on going back and looking at some of the video footage that I was taking, and you could hear the separate conversations going. But the beauty is the networking aspect of it.
Mm.
What Jose and Brandon were talking about, we're speaking. You and I were talking about the city and just absorbing the city. And you're giving me the tour of, hey, this is Left Rack T.O, and so many great artists come from this area. So, and then all the way in the far back, it was kind of muffled, but you could hear certain conversations. Then on the way back, everyone got to see the beautiful Christmas tree at the Rockefeller Center, the ice skating, got to hang out. And that conversation going back again was a lot about, oh, how great this is, just being together, being able to meet each other for the first time. So that communication was on full display, Sifu.
Yeah. One of the things that it might have escaped you is that Brandon Godoris, who's an incredible speaker, right?
Yes.
One of the things that he said is that his mentor, who I know, had a conversation with him last month, and he said, "You surpassed me."
Yes. Yes.
And this is a speaking guy, a guy who told him how to speak better, how to get on better stages. And he said to Brandon, "You surpassed me." And this guy has been speaking for 40 years. So what I said to that effect is that a great mentor or a great teacher, their true goal should be for their students to surpass them. That's how I teach. And that's how I know he's a great mentor, because when I was in his presence, I felt held by him. Thomas Plummer is a great teacher. Brandon Godoris is a great teacher. I went to his speaker school just for fun, but I still learned, because everywhere I go, I need to learn. One of the things that you may not have heard is that Brandon was on the phone. He was on my phone going to the city, because I overheard in 2 days, this is Sunday, he said, in 2 days, I'm speaking in Spanish for the first time ever. And he doesn't really know Spanish. So he's speaking in Spanish. And I'm like, really? And this was me overhearing him, right? Not even him talking directly to me. And I don't eavesdrop unless it's important, right? So in this instance, he said, I'm trying, maybe he kind of said, I'm not sure how I'm going to do. And I said, hey, Brandon, did I hear right? You're going to be speaking on Tuesday, 2 days from today, in Spanish, and you really don't speak Spanish? He goes, no. And I said, is it okay if I help you? I'm Spanish, I'm Colombian. But I said, is it okay if I give you a real professional to help you? My sister used to be a Spanish professor. So I get on the horn and I go, hey, sis, how you doing? She's like, everything. I said, listen, I'm here with a good friend of mine. Can you coach him? And for 30 minutes, she coached him. She didn't say, how much is he going to pay me? She didn't say anything. And then she coached him. And she helped him pronunciation. She helped him put the words properly, because he had a speech. And I think he might have done it through Chat GPT or interpretation or something like that. But she helped him put the words in a better context, so his speech would come out better, right? So in the moment is, how do we help somebody learn to communicate? And my sister did it beautifully, that he was like, oh my gosh, this was great. And it was unexpected help. And I think that's part of communication, is listening, right? When does somebody need your help? And do you freely give it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And I believe all three aspects were captured in that moment. Communication, you made the connection, the clarity, was, it happened. Brandon hung up happy. I'm ready to rock and roll. So that's amazing, bro. All three captured. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned to you before we go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you're going to say, because you did mention, I want to hear that part. Yes.
I mentioned to you before we started that I'm in Boston, so the golf season is over, but I play a lot of golf. I belong to a golf club, and I had been on the board of governors of the club until about 48 hours ago. My term ended, so I'm done. And as part of being on the board of governors, you had to chair a committee, and the committee I chaired was the communications committee. Well, we did the normal stuff you would expect. We published the club newsletter, and we published flyers for the events, and we helped edit things that were being sent out, and so on and so forth. But 10 days ago, we had our annual, we call it an informational meeting, which I find is a silly name because all meetings ought to at least have some information in them. So I don't. But one would hope. But yeah. I think of it as the state of the club meeting, like the State of the Union, where all of the board members and the president of the club get up and talk about what each of their committees did and so on. And one of the things that I and one of the guys on my committee offered to the other board members was our help in preparing what they were going to present. And there were 10 different presentations, one of which was mine. And I would say of the 10 presentations, 4 of them were effective, and one of which was mine. I'm sorry, but I'm okay at this stuff. And
you should be.
Yeah, one would hope again. But what we tried to get through to these guys, and they were all guys, which is another issue, was getting up there and clicking through PowerPoint slides is not communicating.
Right.
It's not in and of itself communicating. It may be a piece of it. It is a tool you can use to communicate. But going through PowerPoint slides, and God forbid, reading what's on the slide, which is, compounds the felony. And so what we tried to say to them was, look, all right, I see the slides, they were clicking through the slides for us. All right, I see what you want to show. Fine, good. Put those aside. What's the story you want to tell?
Right.
Well, I want to show these slides. No. What's the story you want to tell? You're telling these people a story. They don't care about the nth level detail of what your committee did. What's the story? It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it makes a point. And with one guy, we got through to him, and we think we helped him a lot. And I think that's a big piece of it, that, that whole notion of you're telling a story. You're not bombarding people with data. And that distinction is a big one, and it's missed way too often in business contexts and other contexts.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, because I've helped people put presentations together, including people who have data. And they initially started with showing slides on data. And I'm like, who is going to remember all that nonsense? I said, make the data come to life with stories. So people remember, I remember on the 28th of, whatever, because there's a story behind it. And when a story represents reality, it makes so much sense. Even data can be compared or used as a story to help people align with the what you're trying to share with them. So yes, thank you for that.
Well, that's exactly where the communication becomes connection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, simply spouting information is not what it's all about, right? If you truly want somebody to engage and do it, you have to do it in a way that's endearing, that they want to embrace, and that's where the real connections come in. I mean, Sifu, if you think about you and I first meeting way back when, and we just kind of clicked and hit it off because we were talking to each other in ways, being respectful to each other and learning. And then all of a sudden the connection comes. And I agree with what Coach T.O said earlier, that all of a sudden, when you have the communication coming through appropriately and that connection, that relationship gets started because of that connection, all of a sudden there's some clarity there. You know, you're on the same page, you're going in a similar direction. It makes it so much easier. And I actually just came off an earlier call, and somebody was using a lot of industry jargon. To them, man, they knew exactly what they were saying. To everybody else, they're going, "What the heck is that?" Right? And I said, one of the things I teach consistently is you always have to speak in the listener's receiving language. It's not about you, it's about them.
The notion of clarity, I hammer away at that in my consulting and when I teach seminars or give talks. A quote that I always use that I've remembered for years was from General MacArthur. He said, "The goal is not to give an order that can be understood. It is to give an order that cannot be misunderstood."
Yes.
In other words, clarity above all. Clarity above all.
Yes.
And that's in a different context. But, you know, are you being clear? And if you're using jargon, you're not.
Yes.
Right off the bat. But give an order that cannot be misunderstood. I've always liked that.
I got to say, earlier today, Coach T.O and I did a show. It's called Unified Leadership. And we went into partnership with that, understanding the same principle that you just shared with us, John. And I think, Coach T.O, you can agree or disagree, but I think we need John on our show. We're going to need Scott on our show. We're going to need so many incredible leaders on our show because it's called Unified Leadership. Because one of the things of leadership is communication. And without that, who are we going to lead?
That's right. That's right. No, I'm stoked just listening, gentlemen, because there's so many things going through my mind. As soon as John started talking about golf, you know, I start thinking about slicing. You know, I know every time I swing, if for some reason it slices to the right, I shift my whole body a little bit, and then I can get it on the green. But simple communication with a professional that can give real clarity, that can connect with my spirit that, hey, T.O, I want you to be on the green, brother, not in the trees, not over in the sand. I need you down the chute. Those simple, you know, communicative aspects, man, can change the world. And we heard a phenomenal lady this weekend named Monique McDonald that talked about the power of our voice and that connection. And I know that quote very well, Mr. John. As a jarhead myself, United States Marine, we all know
MacArthur quote.
Absolutely, you know, and that is so important, especially when you're dealing, you know, with young troops, older troops as well, but particularly young troops that are tired, they're out working hard, grinding, doing what they need to do, and then you sit them in a classroom and you want to beat them down by death by PowerPoint, as we call it. They're not going to relate. They're not going to relate. It's going to one ear out the other, but if you really, you know, like Scott said, you know, get on their level with that connection, man, it's, you know, it's noted. So I love it, gentlemen.
Can I
Coach
quote
T-
another?
Oh,
No,
go ahead, John.
Scott.
No, I was
If I
just
can
going to
quote,
make a smart comment about what T.O. said. Is that's just, if it slices to the right, that's a miscommunication between the club head and the ball.
That's right.
No, they communicated perfectly.
I done got something started, Sifu.
My college, I studied aeronautical engineering in college, and one of my senior projects was helping a professor design golf balls. So they communicated perfectly.
Yep. The communication happened, but maybe there wasn't as much clarity. Okay, we'll go that way.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm gonna run the. I think so. I got that quote from General MacArthur right.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. John. Absolutely.
Okay. Here's. I'm gonna quote another general. I hope I get this one right. This one has to do with connection. This is a quote that I use. General Eisenhower's definition of leadership. It's getting the other person to do what you want him to do because he wants to do it.
Wow.
And it's the wants to part that is the tricky part. Yes. Too many people. I mean, in the military, particularly in the commercial world. My last job before I retired, I worked for Raytheon. So, and I was responsible for leadership development for a big chunk of one of the business units for Raytheon. And as you know, defense contractors are largely populated by former flag officers.
Absolutely.
In very responsible positions. And a lot of them have a hard time adjusting.
It's a fact.
And so I remember saying to one of them, said to me one day, good guy, he was a retired admiral, said, you know, I don't understand it. I tell people what I want done, and I'm pretty clear, I think, but they do it. If it doesn't get done, or it doesn't get done on the timeline that I want. And I said, and you're frustrated. He said, yeah, I'm frustrated. And I said, well, Bob, you got to understand that you can't throw them in federal prison anymore for not doing what you want.
That's right.
You have to persuade them now.
Yes.
And it's the because they want to do it portion of it that you're leaving out. If your go-to move as a leader is exercising positional authority, you're not a leader. You need to find a way. You need to connect. You need to find a way to connect. How do you connect and toggle whatever it is that'll make them want to do it? And I'm done with my quotes from generals. I'm done. I don't know anymore.
It's awesome. It's amazing, Mr. John. It really is, because that's where gentlemen like myself come into play. You know, as retired sergeant major, right? No
23
bravado.
years. Let's not forget, 23 years.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Sifu. But you know, I'm in terms of, you know, the flag officers, admirals, you know, full birds, you know, 1-star, 2-star, you know, impeccable in their own right. But having that unified leadership, once again, you know, it's vital, because as you said, Mr. John, for an individual that's looking at it from the scope of, you know, I get frustrated because they're not doing what I need them to do type thing on whatever level. It's that connection of that time spent. You know, time is so valuable in terms of, you know, being in the trenches with those individuals. So I could see that. And to the vice versa aspect of it, a lot of times we struggle. The enlisted guys, you know, the old enlisted guys, we struggle because we're so used to having that constant hands-on approach. And then sometimes we want to be a little bit too aggressive when we transition out of the service. And, you know, like you said, you know, Lockheed Martin's right here in Atlanta, a lot of good buddies work out there, and they again frustrated, Mr. John, because oh man, it's so different in the military, and some of these guys, they don't want to listen, they want to do it their own way, and I just want to just rah. But like you said, Mr. John, that you have to find that congruent, aspect of the leadership. So very important.
Mm-hmm.
This is great, man. You gentlemen got to come on Unified Leadership. Mr. John, Mr. Scott, y'all have to come on with us. Yes.
I'd be honored to. I think I didn't have the military experience, but,
neither did I.
Blessed to have a number of friends. So first of all, T.O, thank you for your service.
Thank
The
you,
other
sir.
side of
Thank
it
you.
is, there's a reason that there's a hierarchy in coming down like that. And, to be able to have those command decisions and do that. But
Yes.
we also have that opportunity to enlist people in our vision. And
Right.
that's a very specific word that I use when I'm training people, is to enlist them in the vision, right?
Yes.
We have a share the vision campaign, get everybody to put themselves in the after state of already being there. The task
Yes.
at hand is already done. And
Right.
it's amazing how, again, being able to clearly be able to communicate that, to connect with them, to then bring them to that point is how you, quite frankly, create a community to want to lift each other up, build each other, do things from that side. So again, all these, when we talk about the power behind the communication, the connection, the clarity, all that, it's imperative to do it well. And one of the best ways to do it is to take yourself out of it. The ego has got to come out of it. That's edging God out. You got to get this thing right in the first place as you do it.
I always say, if you ever see my ego, please punch it in the face.
I'd never heard that acronym, edging God out for ego. I'd never heard that.
Yeah. Well, it's when you start to think through it's funny because I share a lot in the trainings and the coaching that I do, that it's a quiet, you need to get yourself to the point of quiet confidence, not arrogance or ego. And again, thinking that ego is edging God out kind of gives you something to, be that milestone, that benchmark from that side. But again, I want to have that, I want to saunter, I want to have that quiet confidence. I don't ever want anybody to think anything past that. And if they're thinking past that, more than likely it's because of the communication that the person that they're thinking about put out. Right. And so again, everything, and as you said earlier, you can be sitting in a room. The words we speak are the smallest portion of communication. It's the tonality, it's how we make the words dance, and it's the physiology behind it. And that's why you can communicate so clearly without ever speaking a word, because there's so many components to the communication, quite frankly, that far too many times are misunderstood.
You mean like if I was sitting here like this while you're talking?
I have never seen that happen in one of my presentations ever. I'll have you know that. No, it's the arms crossed, the totally shut off, the looking at their phone every 3 seconds.
You know how I stop people from looking at their phones when I speak? Before I get on stage, I go and collect all the phones. I'm just kidding. I heard you speak several times already, and this man, when he speaks, I got to tell you, it's something more than him speaking, and it's so beautiful to hear him speak, right? And every time I've heard this man speak, it's a beautiful thing. And I haven't heard Scott speak on a stage, but every time he speaks to me, I hear beautiful things too. So thank you, gentlemen. And John, I haven't heard you speak yet, but I know we're gonna, because, for me, it's about bringing people on stage. And one of the comments that I've heard a lot of times when I speak, sometimes people hug me afterwards. Maybe they feel sorry for me. I don't know what it is. But other times people say, man, you had everybody's attention. Because for me, it's not about me. Even though I may speak about me, it's about maybe what I've gone through is going to help you elevate you as a human being, because we're all here in the same place. So why don't we start getting along, and why don't we bring more clarity to what we're doing with our lives, and let's help one another instead of stabbing each other and seeing who I can jump over to get to the next rung, right? So for me, it's about that type of communication where we're helping one another. And I think anytime we speak, we're doing that. So thank you, gentlemen, for being on this show and stepping up and saying, I'm here to help. Thank you.
I wound up spending a good chunk of my career. I wound up as in the mid 80s through the mid 90s. A lot of my time was spent speaking, quite by accident. Here's the formula for how to become a public speaker. Write a book that amazingly, for me, I was a stunt, sells well, and get laid off from your job at the same time. Because then you have no choice but to go out and speak to make a living. I had written a book, it sold well. Again, I was astounded that it sold well. I got laid off a couple of months later. We had just moved into a big new house. We had a big mortgage, and my wife was 7 months pregnant, and I didn't have a job. And I was petrified at the thought of public speaking. And I got a phone call, said, can you come and give a talk next month? We liked your book. We need a keynote speaker. And I said, yes. And I had to do it. It's amazing what you can do in life when you have no choice. But I had the advantage of not knowing how you were supposed to do it. I just went out and did it. And I wasn't afraid. And I wound up doing things that were unconventional. And that turned out to be great. They were conventional for me, but they were unconventional. And I wasn't afraid to joke around a bit and and it worked. And yeah, and it connected with people. And so
that's exactly it. A lot of people, you probably didn't even know about slideshows. You're like, what is that?
Oh, this was in the days of putting foils on an overhead projector.
I hear you.
Wow. Yes.
Scott and I both know about that.
Yeah.
I'm 75 years old, so
you're still young, man. You're so young. You're so young. You're so young. Remember, don't say old. Say I'm 75 years young. Remember, we're talking about communication, right? Because when you hear the word old, people dismiss you sometimes. They're like, oh, no, I'm 75 years young, and you should listen to what I have to tell you.
But 75 years young sounds like you're fudging it. I've made 75 laps around the sun.
That's right.
How's that?
I like that too. I like that.
How's that?
I like that too.
All right.
Yeah. That's better. That's better.
All right.
And I would venture to say if they don't want to listen, whoever that they may be, to Mr. John, they're out of their mind. I would say that. Because the wisdom in 75 years that he has accumulated, the things he's accomplished, that's some of the problems that we have with some of these younger folk out here today. Like, you can't tell me nothing. You're old and you're an idiot, I would say, for lack of a better word, because as John just stated, the unconventional approach, the unorthodox approach, the aspects of speaking that really truly connect sometimes, that's what it is. I pride myself on that, gentlemen, personally. I pride myself on the connection. I pride myself on thinking about speaking to Marines before going into combat in Afghanistan. I always think about that and how vulnerable that moment truly really was, because lives are at stake. You know, we're not standing up and having a good kumbaya directly after that speech. It's like what I say to these troops can be the difference between life and death, getting home, you know, whatnot. So that really touched my heart to hear that. That unconventional approach, back against the wall per se, wife 7 months pregnant, new mortgage, but I have an asset, and that asset is my true story, which did well, the book, and to be able to speak on that is real powerful. I appreciate you for sharing that, Mr. John. I really do.
Guess what? John is going to be on my Author's Tales book show very soon, and we're going to be talking about his book. So make sure
What's
everybody
the name of it? What's the name of that book, Mr. John? The book, actually. What's the name, Mr. John?
My new book is If Engagement is the What, Then Respect is the How. It's about employee engagement is a big deal. And it's my attempt to cut through some of help people avoid some of the pitfalls and be more effective. That respect is the how. In a nutshell, I say, this sounds homely, but you know, if you treat people with respect, you're about 80% of the way there.
Yeah, just let me validate that. My platform is really to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. It has been my entire speaking career. Respect is how someone treats you. Honor is how they lift you up. When that's done well between you, dignity exists. You know, and so totally agree with you on that stance. I think that's, quite frankly, where a lot of unfortunate situations have been created because of lack of respect and treating people with the honor they are due. We don't have to agree with everybody and everything we do, but we should at least respect them for their position and honor them for what they're working to do with it. And then we can experience that dignity together and go from there and truly solve some challenges, which, again, as social beings, that's our opportunity and our invitation on a daily basis.
The definition of respect I give in the book is giving due consideration to the other.
Love that.
And other, I know other is kind of a loaded term these days because you can get, but I define other as anybody who isn't you. So it's not a group, it's not a demographic, it's anybody who isn't you. And the word do is in there to say, you have a business to run. I'm not saying you need to throw rose petals in people's paths. You got a business to run. So an appropriate, have you stopped? All it's saying is, did you stop to consider the effect of what you did or didn't say or did or didn't do on others? And if you take a beat to think about that, an enormous amount of chaos can be avoided in organizational life. So,
beautiful.
Can I give you a silly example of something it just reminded me of one of the first talks I ever gave?
Yep.
I mean, really, this might have been the second talk I ever gave, talking about unorthodox things to do. I mentioned that this was in the era of writing things on acetates, right? So I've been hired to give a talk, and my book was, this was in the days of total quality management. That was the hot new topic. So I won't bore you with anything, but TQM was the thing. So I was asked to come and give a talk about that. And I had the advantage of following the vice president of quality. And if you ever want to follow somebody, follow a vice president of quality. You're in good shape. And so it was at a hotel in Covington, Kentucky, because it was for GE aircraft engines, which is in Cincinnati. So that was across the river in Kentucky. And I was supposed to speak at 9 o'clock, and the VP of quality was speaking at 8. And I said, can I sit in on the first speaker? I'd like, just so I get the context and get a feel for the room. I was new at it, but I was smart enough to do that at least. So I was sitting in, so the room is set up classroom style. I'm sitting in the back with the staff and the woman who had hired me to come in and do this. And right at 8 o'clock, just as the thing's about to begin, music from, this is a hotel ballroom, you know, with the accordion walls. So there was another ballroom right next to us. Music from the adjacent room came blaring through very loudly. And I turned to my host and said, what's that? She said, oh, that's been going on all week. We've been having a fight with them over the volume of what we've been doing and what they've been doing. It's just been a fight. We've been doing this all week long. I said, well, what is that meeting? She said, it's convention of dentists. So you don't, you got a bunch of angry dentists next to you. And so then I get up to sit, and I thought, So I took out some acetate. I started scribbling some stuff down. The room was divided, had 2 aisles, 3 sections. So I got up to speak. Now here, I'm a brand new, I'm 35-year-old jabroni who gets up to talk. I'm new at this stuff. And I said, thank you very much. Before we begin, let's do a little exercise as an icebreaker. I'm going to ask you each section. I'm going to give you each a word to say. I'm going to ask you to say it, and then we're going to put them together. So I put down a slide, an acetate that said, your word is pit. This section, your word is pit, P-I-T. Say it. You said pit. No, come on, louder. Pit. Again, pit, pit, pit. Practice it, pit. Okay. This section, your word is sands. S-A-N-D-S. Sands. Say it. Sands. Come on, sands. 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 So we got pit and sands. Now you in the middle, you got kind of a funny one. It's R-I-N. Just say it. Rin. All right. Rin. 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 All right. Now we're going to say them together. When I point to you, say your word. Rin, sands, pit. Rin, sands, pit. And finally dawned on them after about the 4th time that what they were saying was rinse and spit. And they knew, by the way, that it had been this fight with dentists. And once it dawned on them that they were saying rinse and spit, they bellowed it to the room next to them for about 30 seconds. Rinse and spit, rinse and spit, rinse and spit. And then they applauded, and I had them eating out of my hand for the next 45 minutes.
That's it.
And, I connected with them. And it was risky. And imagine if that didn't work, I'd have had a big bunch of dental egg on my face. But anyway.
That was a great story. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. John, that was really incredible. Brilliant for somebody who was a jabroni at the time, right? but because your website is going at the bottom, we give everybody 45 seconds. Tell us why somebody should connect with you.
They can connect with me if they want to learn about how to connect better, about how to communicate better, and particularly around employee engagement. That's kind of my specialty. There's a lot of stuff on my website about that, a lot of articles and a connection to my links to my books.
Awesome. And remember, everybody, coming soon, Author Sales. John will be with me. We're talking about his new book. And Coach T.O, please let us know why somebody should connect with you, my friend.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I give an honor to these gentlemen, man. It's been a pleasure being here with you all today. Brother Scott, Brother John, again, just so much wisdom and I love that. I'm 49, but I've always known, hey, take the wise words of wise individuals, and I've been able to receive that today. So first and foremost, thank you for that. www.lightbulblessons.com. I smile when I say it because we all possess light. What is light? Light is love, intellect, greatness, health, and truth. We apply those 5 pillars within how, we conduct ourselves on a day-to-day. Great things is going to come from that. Again, as Brother John said, you can check out the website. I'm all things leadership. I love leadership. I love to coach. I love to inspire. Love to mentor. So reach out. I'm here. And I thank you, Sifu, for having me on today. Absolutely.
Can I tell you the kind of leader that John is? He's one that really impacts us. He gave us generals in here, but I also want to talk about Coach T.O because he didn't even know he was going to be on this show yesterday, and he stepped up today when we're having a show. At the end of our show, I said, "Hey, my 2 guests couldn't come on. They have something that's going on with them. They have to travel. Would you be able to come on?" He goes, "I got you, Sifu. I got you." So that's just true leadership right there. And when he found out that, I have this incredible show with Scott Schilling, he's like, "No, there's a no-brainer. I'm there." Right. So thank you for stepping up and being the true leader that you are and impacting so many people in all that you do.
Thank you.
God has placed me in your presence, so thank you for that.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, and then of course we have our good co-host Scott Schilling in the house. Scott,
Well,
where should we connect with you, man?
oh, always a pleasure. Scott at scottschilling.com. I don't hide well. Scottschilling.com. I help people increase their revenue and make more money by securing more business. That's a fancy way of saying close more sales. Basically, I demystify the process and really help people understand that, in fact, selling is actually serving. When we have a solution to somebody's challenge, we have the invitation to share that with them so that we can solve problems. We're actually problem solvers. So I come from the Ziegler School. You can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want.
That's it. Awesome. So I am Sifu Rafael. I'm not going to tell you anything about me because that's who I am. Come find out. I got to run to another show. I was supposed to be there 5 minutes ago, but this has been so great that I hope they don't mind that I'm coming in a little late. Love you, gentlemen. Have an exceptional rest of your day. And what can I say? We'll see you next time. Take care. Make sure you share the show with somebody. Share it. Lots of wisdom in here. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you all soon.